Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a seriously fascinating build. We're looking at a highly automated smart van that completely reimagines what lighting can do. We'll explore how this custom system uses light not just to help you see in the dark, but to act as a context-aware nervous system that's constantly communicating with you. I mean, think about your current living space for a second. We're so used to constantly checking our phones, our tablets, or digital screens just to figure out what our smart home systems are actually doing. But what if you never had to look at a screen? Imagine an environment that just tells you what's happening through really subtle ambient cues. Well, that's exactly what the creator of the Smarty Van has managed to pull off. To understand how this all comes together, we're going to break things down into 5 key areas today: the Smart Van's glow, the visual dashboard LEDs, temperature painted in color, hex lights and WLED magic, and finally, context-aware night mode. So let's jump right into section 1, the Smart Van's glow. We'll start by looking at the hardware backbone that actually makes this whole contextual environment possible in such a tiny space. You know, a smart environment is really only as good as its hardware, and this van features a diverse but incredibly integrated ecosystem. You've got WLED Glidopto hex lights providing the main ambiance. Then you have Rodrit dimmer switches for the main bathroom and bed lights, and those are linked up with behind-the-scenes Zigbee dimmer units. Finally, there's a King Kony control panel acting as a major relay. It pulls in temperature data and physically switches the heavy loads, things like the floor fan, the water fill valve, and the underfloor heating. But the real magic here, this network is built so that every single one of those utility tasks can instantly report back to the ambient lighting. All right, moving on to section 2, the visual dashboard LEDs. This is where the van's creator completely reimagined the actual purpose of a simple LED strip. Instead of tapping through some bulky tablet screen stuck to a wall, a single row of LEDs acts as the van's physical status monitor. They've essentially built a living user interface. With just a quick glance at this physical LED panel, you immediately understand the critical states of the van's utilities. The backend code is actually translating technical toggle flags into vivid, instant visual feedback using precise RGB color codes. So for example, LED number 4 lights up hot pink when the bathroom heating flag is on. LED 5 turns orange when the immersion heater is active. Underfloor heating glows red on LED 6. The inverter shines yellow on LED 7. And the floor fan? That's represented by a light blue on LED 8. The automation is constantly checking these system flags in Home Assistant and instantly updating the exact LED. It keeps the physical environment perfectly synced with the digital backend. Now, having bright indicator lights glaring inside a tiny van at night? Yeah, that would be incredibly annoying. So to make sure this dashboard isn't a visual distraction, there's a dedicated sun tracking automation. Exactly 1 hour before sunset, the system drops the overall LED dashboard brightness perfectly down to 40%. Then, an hour after sunrise, it kicks them right back up to 100%. It's a small detail, sure, but it makes the lighting genuinely respectful of the people actually living in this space. Okay, section 3. Temperature painted in color. Let's see how this system levels up from simple on and off statuses to communicating fluid, variable data. This dashboard doesn't just do simple binary toggles. It actually does dynamic math. The crucial point here is how the logic dynamically shifts the color of LED 3 based on the exact temperature of the van's water tank. If the water is freezing, like below 11 degrees Celsius, the LED is a deep blue. As it warms into the 20s, it transitions through cyan and into green, and once it climbs above 35 degrees, it turns a bright red. You never have to ask a voice assistant or check an app to know if your water is hot enough for a shower. The room itself is already telling you. But it doesn't stop at static colors. The system actually uses animation to grab your attention when it's really needed. For instance, the van's diesel heater has this specific afterburner frost safety mode to stop the pipes from freezing. If that crucial safety mode kicks in, a script triggers LED 2 to actively pulse on and off every 500 milliseconds. A blinking light inherently communicates urgency in a way a static color just can't. Let's jump into section 4, hex lights and WLED magic. We're going to explore the ambient mood lighting, specifically those WLED Glidopto hex lights mounted in the living space. Now, these hex lights aren't just there to look pretty, they are deeply woven into the fabric of the van's physical controls. A short press of the physical smart button in the kitchen toggles them instantly. Or say you're getting ready for bed. A short press of the bed button toggles the hex lights, but it also activates a built-in 1-hour shut-off timer. Plus, they're tied directly to the van's satellite intercom system. Whenever the hex lights are triggered, an automation intercepts that state change and dynamically triggers a voice assistant confirmation announcing hex lights are now on or hex lights are off. And they don't just provide static white light either. The source code reveals that a specific preset is sent to the WLED controller when requested. They utilize this incredibly dynamic lighting effect called Chase Rainbow. It cycles colors across the hex panels to bring a really vibrant, breathing atmosphere to the small area, totally transforming the vibe of the van right on demand. Finally, we have Section 5, Context-Aware Night Mode. Honestly, this is perhaps the ultimate smart home luxury. How the van's utility lighting adapts to human behavior while everyone is just trying to sleep. So imagine waking up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. In a normal home, hitting the switch just absolutely blinds you with overhead lights. But in the Smarty Van, the system knows exactly what time it is. The code shows a global automation that constantly watches the clock and the motion sensors. At 9 p.m., if the van becomes occupied, it sets the brightness targets for the skylight, the bathroom, and the bedroom down to a barely there glow. Then, right at 7 a.m., boom, it automatically resets the slider targets back to 100% for daytime use. That 1% brightness is literally the perfect example of using automation to solve a physical space and comfort problem seamlessly. Because the space is so incredibly small, light just bleeds everywhere. By mathematically forcing the lights to their absolute minimum threshold during sleep hours, the automation protects the occupant's night vision and sleep cycles, all without them ever having to adjust a single dial. But here is where it gets truly robust. It runs a constant synchronization script between the physical Zigbee hardware, like those Rotret remote dimmers we mentioned, and the back-end software sliders. If you physically dim the bathroom lighting using the wall switch, the script immediately catches that change and updates the digital slider in Home Assistant. So there is never a disconnect. The physical lighting controls and the digital automation logic are always in perfect harmony, even in the dead of night. Seeing how much pure utility and communication can be squeezed into the LED arrays of a tiny van really leaves us with a fascinating thought. How can we move beyond simple illumination in our own spaces? If a van can use color to tell you the water is hot, or a pulse to warn you of freezing pipes, or drop to 1% brightness because it knows you're sleeping, how could you redesign the lighting in your own home to act as a living interface that truly understands and communicates with you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this sparks some bright ideas for your own environment.